Welcome to America's Heroes Group.
Welcome back to America's Heroes Group's Roundtable with partner Women Have a Voice and myself, Debra Denhart. Today is Saturday, May 20th, 2023. May is Mental Health Awareness, Military Appreciation, and Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. Our host is Kelley. I'm your co-host today, Debra Denhart. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith. Our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega, Scouts Honor Productions. And I'm your partner, U.S. veteran myself, and a marketing communications and public affairs professional. Today on our panel, we have Tiffany Basham. Tiffany has worked as an IT engineer, is a major in the Marines, and was notoriously commissioned as a second lieutenant in 2009. She has served over 14 years in the Marine Corps Reserve. Tiffany, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm happy to be here.
So today we're going to be talking about remembering military women and what that means to honor our service and make sure that we recognize what we've contributed. Now, let's start with you and your amazing background. It's just so incredible. So tell me, Tiffany, more about your background and just what drew you to become a Marine.
Sure. I'm a Air Force brat. I was born on Wright Pat and with an older brother and my family. We moved around a lot to different Air Force bases up until my dad got out in the early 90s. And we moved to Michigan. I'm a service-oriented family, a lot of military in my family. I have a grandpa who's a retired Navy. My other grandpa was in the Army. You know, we can trace back our military lineage all the way back to the American Revolutionary War. So really service-oriented. I was always interested in joining the Marine Corps. For some reason, I'm the only Marine, so I was a bit of a black sheep. Unfortunately, when I tried to join after high school, the Marine Corps just didn't have a slot for me as a female at the time. This is in the late 90s, and so I decided to go to college up in Michigan Tech, where I experienced, like a lot of Americans, 9/11, and then in the invasion of Iraq. And I decided then to recall the Marine recruiter, and that was on a Wednesday at the end of the semester, and I was on my way to boot camp that next Monday. So real change of life right there. I called my mom Sunday night and said, okay, by the way, I'm going to no more college. I'm going to the Marines. So it was a real shock to my family. But, it's just something that I always wanted to do. It felt right at the time. And, in retrospect, it was the right decision for me.
Absolutely. Now, you were an engineering major also, right?
Yeah. So I was in biomedical engineering. I was actually almost about four and a half years into the degree when I decided to join the Marine Corps. And I thought, I could finish that degree while I was in. But, unfortunately, it just didn't work out based off of, it's hard to finish an engineering degree, but also the tempo at the time in the Marine Corps, just the time to have to go to college. And also, I met my husband there and started a family as well. So, priorities really shifted. But the experience that I had in college and what I was able to take forward, that was what enabled me to get accepted to the Meritorious Commissioning Program. So I was able to leverage that and get into OCS and commissioned, and then I finished my college degree while in the serving active in the reserves.
That's amazing. Yeah, you did it. You even though you didn't start on the same, you went off a little bit, but you still ended up where you wanted to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was a little bit, I always tell people I don't recommend the path. I definitely was juggling a lot of balls in the air. Like I said, I had a young family. I was active in the Marine Corps Reserve. I had a full-time job, and then I was going to school at the full-time as well. So it was a challenge to balance and get everything done. So, but it was definitely worth it in the long run.
Absolutely. You talked about balancing things. So you had a lot of juggling to do. How did you do that? Like, what do you have any tips for, like, what we can do to, like, balance all those balls in the air sometimes we have as women?
Yes, right. Especially as moms, right? We have so much that we have going on, and, career women. And I think for me, it's just important for me to let people know that, I didn't always succeed. I went to OCS the first time and I broke my foot. And so I had to regroup and come back and try again the next year. And, I was able to succeed. So I didn't always succeed, but I always had the determination to go forward. And then I learned very quickly how to prioritize, all the balls you have in the air. And somebody taught me once, like you have glass balls and rubber balls in the air. Glass balls are those really important items that you can't drop. But then you have those rubber balls that maybe you can set down for a minute. And so when you have all of those balls in the air, just learn to prioritize, do what matters the most, and then kind of regroup. If don't let maybe temporary setbacks stop you from going forward. And then, I would be remiss if I didn't really mention my support system. I have a very strong support system. I mentioned I got married. My husband's former Marine, very sturdy support system. He takes care of the kids when I'm out doing the Marine Corps thing. And, my mom has always been very supportive, my brother and family. I just have such a strong support system that I can lean on, when times do get tough.
That's so important. Thank you for that. I love that. The glass balls and the rubber balls. I love that. You have to kind of figure out what's a priority right now, like in my life. So that's so great. Right. Thank you for that. Now, do you feel it was hard being a woman in the Marines?
Yeah, I think, it's a challenge being a female Marine. There's not a lot of us. When I went through OCS, we had a very small platoon. The basic school, I was the only female in my platoon. So going through by yourself sometimes can be, or in small groups, can be a little bit lonely. You kind of have to take on a little bit more than what might be traditionally expected of a Marine. But at the same time, I find it so rewarding and really empowering. I've had great mentors that help me when things get really hard. And, I've learned to develop a voice for myself and a bit of, a backbone. So, yeah, there are challenges, but, I've been empowered to tackle them in the Marine Corps with, not just other female Marine mentorship, but male mentorship as well. So it is tough, but very rewarding.
I love that. Now, I know, you start at the lowest level, right? I mean, we all do in the military. Yeah. From, no stripes to one stripe, Now you're a major after, having served like over 14 years in the Marines, which to me is amazing. I love that. So how do you feel now? Now, in what ways that you're higher rank, and how do you feel you're able to make a difference as a woman, like for like other women who are now in the Marines? Because it's evolving, right? I think the military is always evolving as far as what they're doing for women. Yeah,
I hope so. I really do hope so. Actually, I enlisted 20 years ago, so this is 20 years for me this week. I was on the Yellow Footprint 20 years ago this week. So I've been in 20 years and I started as an E2. So one of the decisions that I had to make going to officer was or even just staying in was, if I could make a difference. And that was really what motivated me to commission, was to, be that voice and support, take care of Marines. And, not just female Marines, but, there are unique issues that female Marines face. And I really wanted to use the experiences that I had in my first enlistment, the lessons that I learned, to really be that building block so that future generations don't necessarily have to face the same challenges that I did. So as I've grown in rank, I have been able to gain that experience, be that voice, and not only be that voice, but be that sounding block for newer, younger Marines coming in that maybe are facing new challenges. So I, like I said, I hope I've been able to make a difference. One group that I have seen start and has made a difference, and I'm a part of, is called Actionable Change. This is a group of very senior female leaders that have banded together to provide that top cover and that support to make, just like the group says, actionable change. If something needs to be changed, they're willing, we're willing to take the steps to pursue that change and be that voice for female Marines at large.
So would other Marines come to you then are you kind of like you're the contact that they would reach out to, like the upper level Marines, and then they would come to you for any issues, and then you would go to the group? Is that who makes up your group?
Yeah, so it really was, it stemmed out of, some issues that happened in the 2000 teens. So it's comprised of gunnery sergeants and above, the senior enlisted, senior officers, but all of us are disseminated throughout the Marine Corps and try to be vested and involved in, female Marine issues or throughout the Marine Corps. So if we hear something, we bring it up, or other people, I've had Marines come to me and say, hey, this is an issue that I have. And so, like I said, be that sounding board. Something even as simple as, hey, we can't get these uniform items. I've seen just that are specific to female Marines. I've seen like a lot of very quick actions taken for that, making those changes. So, yeah, it is more of a, you reach out to us, but we also just stay, or, the female Marines leaders that are in that, we try to stay vested in what is going on in the Marine Corps.
That's great. You're trying to be a voice. You're a voice for them, too. So that's great. Now, you have a special passion for the Military Women's Memorial in D.C. Can you share more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a national memorial, and it acts as tribute to American servicewomen, past and present. I'm the Indiana State Ambassador. Every state has an ambassador, a former servicewoman that volunteers for the organization, and we go out and we educate the population about this memorial. It's been around since the 1990s. It was established, but it's dedicated to preserving the legacy of American servicewomen. So it empowers them, it provides education, and it's just a really great resource for servicewomen. And not only that, it's a beautiful memorial on it's at the ceremony entrance to Arlington Cemetery.
And how can we be part of that? What can we do to be part of that?
Oh, yes. And so I think one of the most important things about this memorial is it is like almost a living embodiment of every servicewoman. So one of the most important things is that every servicewoman, we're seeking to register their service. So you can register yourself as a servicewoman, or if you have a loved one that is a female in the service, you can register them as well. So if you go online to the womensmemorial.org, right on the front of the webpage, you can see the memorial, the story behind it, and then you can also create an account. And once you create an account, you get a member number, and you get your piece of history, so you can write your own story in your own words using your own service. You can add a picture, your favorite story, and that's retained as a museum archive for posterity.
Wow, how many women are part of that right now?
Right now we have about 300,000 registrations. It seems like a big number, but it's about 10% of the ultimate goal, which is to get all servicewomen, and that's about 3 million servicewomen that have heard. So it's a big hill to climb. But like I said, there's ambassadors out there. We're trying to spread the word. The national organization is spreading the word as well. So it's growing. It's grown over 100,000 in just the last year or so. So you spread spread the word if you hear about it. But it's a big task to tackle to get to 700 or up to the 3 million registrations.
Wow. That number just boggles me to think that many women, like we've all been a part of the military, and what a difference we've made, so that's, I never thought of the number, but I was like, wow, there's a lot of us who've served, so that's.
Yeah, it is. And, I have my own personal story why this is such a passion for me is, I mentioned on military service, and I always felt like a black sheep. And, about 10 years into my service, I was going through some family pictures, and I saw this black and white photo of a female Marine from World War II. And I was like, who is this? And it turned out this was my great aunt, was a World War II female Marine, not only did I have that connection as a female Marine in my family, but it turns out we served on the same duty station, both at Henderson Hall. And so, for me, it's really important. And it showed me, like, one, how quickly that story could be lost. I heard all about the men that were in my family that had served, but nothing about something that might have been that connection to me as the female wanting to be a Marine, but also how meaningful it can be when those stories, they're found and told. And so I think, that's the service that this memorial provides, is a way to preserve your legacy. And a lot of times as women, we think, well, what does it matter? This is just, I just did my job, or this is all, not that important of service, but it's meaningful to the people that come after us, that you represent a part of them and a part of history.
Absolutely. To be remembered, right? You're stamping your name on in history when you say, I'm part of this, I want to be part of this, and, I want to be remembered, right? And how important that is for children.
Absolutely. Like having that representation and seeing that the women that have come before you, for, the girls that are coming up, it's just so important to realize, like, hey, this is a part of our American history, and, that women in these stories are a part of that. So, absolutely, I think every servicewoman out there needs to take a piece of that history. They earned it, they deserve it, and it is just going to be so important for those that are coming up behind us as well.
Absolutely. And I just want to make a note. I did sign up for the womensmemorial.org in there last night, actually. And it was pretty empowering, I have to say, to, bring out your DD-214 and write down all your ribbons. And I had forgotten, like, how many medals and ribbons I had received, actually. And it was pretty awesome, because I just started writing, and I was like, wow, I did a lot, So I think it's really empowering. Did you that way when you did yours?
Yeah, it really is. When you sit down and you go through it and you think about it, and you're like, okay, well, I just, I worked on computers at the Pentagon. That's, that was what I did from 2003 to 2007. But when you actually go through and write down, hey, this is my favorite story, or, I actually helped at the presidential inauguration parade, and I worked with the Secret Service. You have all of these, like, every female service member has, like, these unique stories that, when you go through and you think back, I actually did that. And you tell your family, and, it's just, I have a friend in the area who registered his mom, and it turned out that she was the secretary of the Nuremberg trials. And so, these stories, if we don't write them down and we don't archive them, they just get lost and overlooked, I think. And, it's so important that everybody deserves to be, think of themselves as important, because it's all a piece of our history.
Absolutely. I love on the website, it says her service for the Women's Memorial, Military Women's Memorial, her service, her story, her legacy. I think that's so awesome, because we are leaving a legacy, right? When we are part of something that's bigger, our contribution matters, what we're doing. So it's great. Thank you so much, Tiffany, so much for being here today. Appreciate you being a guest. And I'm so excited to inspire others with your words, and for everyone to be part of the womensmemorial.org. Check that out and sign up today. Okay. Thank you so much. We're American Heroes Group, and we'll be right back.